Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Bits Bros Educational Resource Television Show. I am your host, Jack Lantern, and today we have the widely acclaimed Aristotle, and he's going to discuss his thoughts on rhetoric. So, how you doing, Aristotle? It's been a few millennia since we've seen you.
Indeed, it has.
Yeah, you're looking pretty trim there, trim and fit.
Oh, thank you. The years have done me kind.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Glad to see you're alive and well. Well, we have a few questions for you. I just want to get your thoughts. So, our first question on the docket is, where did all this talk of rhetoric begin? Where was the starting point for it?
Rhetoric truly began, as many historians believe, around 5th century BC. So, in Syracuse, Sicily, a new regime took over. It was a democracy that took over. Many people had been exiled, and their land had been taken over by this previous reign, this previous regime. But democracy arises out of the notion that those who are equal in any respect are equal in all respects. Because men are equally free, they claim to be absolutely equal. So these people, these men that had been exiled, wanted to come back, but they had no proof of documentation that this land was theirs. So they had to go before the courts and persuade them and convince them that this land was theirs. And this is the first real look at the use of rhetoric that we have in history.
So you're trying to say that rhetoric is it's merely trying to convince people of things?
No, Jack. That sounds a lot like my opposition, the sophists. You see, they use big words and fancy phrases to try and convince people of something that they actually have no schema about. They boasted themselves on being able to win an argument purely on words alone and not actually knowing what they were talking about. And that's what they would go around teaching people, is very, very unfounded. The key to all of this is the truth. You see, the rhetoric is the art of discovering ways to make the truth seem more just probable to an audience that isn't completely convinced. It's not about finding the truth, it's that you found the truth. And that's what made the case of these Sicilians convincing, was because they were telling the truth. The truth drove their use of persuasion because that's what it was founded upon. And the truth is a key factor in all of this, because it has a moral superiority to falsehood. When you use rhetoric and you're telling the truth, it convinces people in great ways because it's the outpouring of your heart. Whereas if you're just using words to try and convince people with falsehood, it falls short. And you know, there are a lot of enemies of the truth that are very good with rhetoric, like the sophists, that can just convince an audience, a dull audience, that they are telling the truth. And that's why, with the truth at the core, you must also be good at rhetoric. And that was what, especially in Athens, a man's success was based on his ability to speak. His ability to speak eloquently and intelligently. And so incorporating the truth to rhetoric, it goes right hand in hand.
Okay. So you've referenced in a few of your texts that you believe that rhetoric is a science and an art form, right? And I was just wondering, can you elaborate on that a little bit? I think it's a little bit different than what normal society views rhetoric as.
Absolutely, yes. So, yes, rhetoric is a science in the regard that it is about studying, it's about the speaker, the speech, and the audience. So it's not just about the way that you say something, it's who you're saying it to. And there's a science behind it because you have to know your audience. If you're speaking to a group of farmers, you don't want to be boasting of the city's accomplishments. If you're speaking to people in the poor regimes of society, you don't want to talk about how fantastic the higher ups in the hierarchy are. You want to know your audience and relate to them in a way that connects you with them. And this is done through the use of ethos, logos, and pathos. Ethos is the ethical side, which is identifying yourself with the audience and having them understand who you are, and getting down to their level and then communicating with them in a way that they'll understand. The logo side is logical. It's big brain energy.
Big brain energy.
That's exactly right.
Wow.
Yes. It's statistics and facts, and basically just your way of portraying the knowledge you know. The facts.
Your delivery.
Yes, the facts. Yes, delivering of the facts. And pathos is the emotional side. It's the stories of struggle and hardship that you can incorporate in your speech, so that people look at you with pity, or you can inspire them with anger, a righteous anger. And really just the whole point of all of this as a science and an art form is to find all available means of persuasion in every case to get your point across.
Okay. Let's see here. What if I wanted to use rhetoric myself? In what situations could I use it? Tasted great.
It tasted grape.
Yeah.
There are several occasions where we would specifically use rhetoric, and I kind of put it into three categories. There's forensic, there's commercial, there's political. Forensic deals with the past, specifically in both situations back in the day and today. It has to do with trying to convince a judge and jury in a courtroom to make a judgment on someone based on something that has already happened. So it's whether you're telling the truth or those who are trying to promote falsehood. You're convincing those people of that, and that's the same as it was in history as it is today. Those are both the same. There's also ceremonial. Ceremonial is you're speaking heaps of praises or blame on another party for an audience. Today, an example of that would be gossip. Whether your audience is a group of people or just one other person, and you're talking about anyone else, you're heaping praises or damnation on a person. And so gossip is a good example of this, but it deals with the present. And then there's political. There's the future. Politically, rhetoric was used to convince people that a leader was better suited for the society, and it's very much like our culture today, where your attempts to influence legislators or voters on who decides future policy. So it's very important to use rhetoric in each of these cases, both for the past, present, and the future.
Okay. How do you see normal society viewing rhetoric? How do you think that they perceive it currently?
Well, unfortunately, due to many people's abuse of rhetoric, and much like the sophists, where a lot of their rhetoric was empty, just based on words alone, many people look at rhetoric and they're like, oh, that's mere rhetoric. Whether it's from a lawyer just using words, or just someone trying to convince you of something that it seems like they don't actually know what they're talking about, they're just trying to confuse you, people would just say that's mere rhetoric. So rhetoric has a negative light on it occasionally in society. People are good at manipulating it. But when you use rhetoric to show the truth, it truly is a beautiful thing. And someone who has eloquently spoken and delivers that in a way that people understand can touch the heart of the audience with the truth.
Okay, Aristotle, we only have one more question. So if you wanted to relay to our audience just one baseline idea about what rhetoric is, what would it be?
Well, Jack, rhetoric is a neutral means by which the speaker or the orator can either accomplish noble ends or further fraud. You can do good things, you can do bad things with it. There's truth, there's falsehood. And by using the method, the art form of rhetoric justly, you can do the great goods. You can do really, really good things. and by using it unjustly, you can commit the greatest harms. Words hurt people, words can build people up. It really is just a clashing between whether to use this ability for good or to use it for evil.
Very interesting. Well, thank you, Aristotle, for joining us on the show. But that's about all the time we have. I just want to thank you. Really appreciate getting talking to you. I'm Jack Lantern, your host. And remember, boys and girls, Epstein did not kill himself.